scope of 365 specifically. Now, you were one of the key minds involved with our permission manager solution here at Hornet Security. Now, again, this is not a product pitch, just kind of, it's relevant, just letting you know. But permission manager is designed to right-size permissions inside of SharePoint Online, OneDrive for Business, Teams as well, because, well, SharePoint underpins Teams, right? But you are a great person for this discussion because you had to wrap your head around patching all of those holes and those potential methods that insider risks could use to grab data that they probably shouldn't have access to in M365, which I know from our previous conversations, that was not an easy problem to solve. I know you spent quite a bit of time in, how do I want to describe it? SharePoint's portal sprawl UI hell, maybe, is probably a good description. Because you could probably just describe it better than me, Phil, but I always explain it as like, okay, there are multiple portals to manage and right-size permissions for 365. There are multiple UIs within multiple portals and different tiers. And you have to go here to find this information, go here to find this information. And on top of that, there's some information that can only be surfaced using the REST API,
code,
right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, but this is this is what you give away for leaving it up to cloud. I mean, like there are a lot of advantages for having stuff hosted,
right.
But at the end of the day, what Microsoft has with M365 is everything that was offered on-prem, but they're hosting them for you, and the things that are the wires that are connecting all of these different services, so that are connecting SharePoint on-prem but hosted by Microsoft, so SharePoint Online, and Skype on-prem or business but hosted by Microsoft, so that's Teams, and Exchange, and you get the idea. And all of the wires that are connecting them now, well, where those wires before didn't exist, now they're hosted by Microsoft and they have holes in them, and it's where most attackers manage to hit, and it's where most data is exfiltrated. Sort of these connections between these different services. So that's why SharePoint has 101 different screens. It's because all of these things are sort of very old and built, built on top of really old architecture, really old software.
It was built for a different era, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I've said it over the years.
I'm not going to say it's patchwork because I'm not going to say it's patchwork, but it's not cloud first. It's not with today's user in mind. So there's a lot of risk over there. And then, I mean, it's our job as security professionals to kind of identify these holes and these gaps in the connections between services in these cloud hosted infrastructures, and make sure our users don't fall through those holes.
Right. And it's funny you mention it that way. I had Eric Siren, one of our other guests, frequent guests on the show. Boy, I want to say this was probably 15, 20 episodes ago. And he was talking about basically the fact that if you look at cloud security in general, if you're trying to attack the infrastructure directly, an attacker probably is not going to be able to, breach infrastructure in most cases. But he said that, to your point, if a major cloud service gets breached, it's going to be through the identity mechanisms, which, to your point, is one of those hooks into cloud services, right? Into hosted services in general. And those are the difficult things to secure and manage, right? And when we're talking about...
In fact, you mentioned users. Wasn't it? How many weeks ago was it that Okta um, uh, Okta got well, not hacked, but there was a vulnerability in Okta, and help me remember, what was it?
I remember seeing the headline. I don't remember the details. There have been so many breaches lately that it's been impossible to keep up on all of them. The big ones I've been keeping an eye on are the recent Midnight Blizzard one with Microsoft, and the recent ConnectWise Screen Connect vulnerability was another big one. But I remember seeing the headline for the Okta one for sure.
Yeah, they confirmed a network breach, and then hackers stole a bunch of information of its users from their support system. So Okta was using a customer support system that got hacked, and then through it they got hacked, and through them someone else did. And I'm trying to remember who who did, but it's just a chain of different cloud vendors.